G'day and welcome to the Infronters. I'm Execute. Today I'm joined by Mr. Agrid and Mr. Paul Shelley from the Astro Pub as our special guest today. How you doing,
Thanks
guys?
for having me.
Yeah,
Lawmaster extraordinaire.
Yeah, nice to have
The
you.
galactic historian himself.
Yes, you're dressed up for the occasion. It looks like. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well,
Very
very
this is
suave.
my normal time.
Yeah, we got.
I've only got a hanky.
Semi-dressed,
Yeah,
and
look.
then slovenly.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm definitely the slob today. I'm in my casual attire, shorts on. It's getting hot here, but anyway.
It's appropriate for the weather I'm in right now because we just had a massive downpour and it's going to be like 50 all week. So it's like I kind of want to have a hoodie, just not do anything.
I was expecting you to say, "Oh, below the desk, I've got nothing on. It's just all naked." It's so hot right here right now.
I never wear anything below the desk. It's all business. It's all professional up top, party at the bottom. That's the way it is all the time, every day.
Yeah, there you go.
All right,
you heard it here first.
So today's episode, we really wanted to go over the Leir system because we think it's something really special. A lot of the planets that are being developed are in this line of 5, and they're all together, all in the middle of the universe. And then you've got this Leir system that has had a lot done to it, and it is miles away from everything. It's right on the other side of the solar system. Well, actually,
and it's not many jump points away from
the galaxy.
So far.
Yeah, galaxy. It's basically near Bannery space almost, isn't it? It's way down the left. Actually, it's kind of between Vandal and
it's more Vandal space. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So it's really outskirts compared to where we are, and yes, the Odin system is on the edge of Vandal, but it's literally on the other side. So. Yeah, so
the best way to describe it is that they break it up because it's an allegory for Roman Empire. The Western Empire is where Earth and the old systems are, and the Eastern Empire is where Terra and the new systems are.
Yep.
Lear's in the old systems; it's in the Western Empire, whereas Stanton is literally on the other side of the Empire. So it's that's kind of to kind of put it in perspective. Like it's literally on the other side of human space.
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. Human space is a good way to cover it.
So, what is the line of 5? Like, what we've kind of talked about this line of 5. We hear it mentioned a lot, but
we're not the only YouTubers that mention it. There's others that have stumbled on this phenomenon as well. So yeah.
So, what is the line of 5? And Paul, why don't you tell us the 5 systems in the line of 5?
So the 5 systems. One of them is Stanton, which is the system we have right now in game. And Stanton is connected to a various line of jump points throughout the Eastern Empire. It has a jump point to Terra. It has a jump point to Pyro. And then Pyro has a jump point to Nyx. And Nyx has a jump point to Odin. All of those systems are connected. They all have different levels of development and different styles. And they kind of fill out a nice gradient of gameplay styles from your safe starter system to your Wild West crazy shooting them up to mysterious or somewhere in between. So you've got a nice little combo there. And if those who have been paying attention to Squadron 42 will know, the Odin system is the system where Squadron 42 takes place. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of people talk about this line of 5, because we know that Odin is in Squadron 42, and we know that Stanton is in Star Citizen. And there are 2 systems which are connected to them, one of which we already kind of have because we have Delamar, which is part of the Nyx system, and then we have Pyro, which is the middle system between Nyx and Stanton. So there's a lot of dropping in.
Sorry to interrupt, but we've actually seen all those systems in some form or another shown off, either on ATV or Star Citizen Live. As you said, we've seen Nyx system in one of the Citizen Cons. We saw Pyro. They were showing off the fire effects of Pyro on a ATV.
Fun fact. Pyro is where Dying Star is. So Dying Star is in Pyro. There you go. Which is why.
And also, I actually think that Pyro is where PAX Australia Gold Horizon first person shooter.
That's true. That's true. So we've seen
lots of things.
I just want to add that. Sorry for interrupting you, Paul, but I did want to add that. Sorry, I thought it was important.
Yeah, no.
Go ahead.
The important part is that we've seen assets in the game being shown off, being discussed, and these were the 5 systems that were also mentioned by Wingman at one point about being the 5, what he called the beta systems, where they would try to get all of these systems into beta. That was 4 or 5 years ago. So a lot of it seems to be falling in place, especially with things like the discussion about Pyro being found in the files. Obviously, Odin being Squadron 42. So this line of 5 is the systems that most people who are like really looking into it think are the systems we're expecting with a beta release. Or
they did mention we would start the game with 5 to 10 systems too, didn't they? So that makes a lot of logical sense.
And when you look at the five systems, the one thing that really sticks out to me is that apart from Stanton, which is really industrialized, you've got Terra, which is highly settled, and then the other 3 systems are like ghost towns. They're very vacant. Paul and I were talking before, weren't we? And we were looking at those 3 systems, and we were surprised at how little
there's a lot to
habitation
explore
areas there were.
A lot to explore there now, Grid. But I also think, agreeing with what you kind of said before, it actually gives you that really good contrast. So, like people have hinted at, Pyro and Nyx are going to be more of a piratey system. So you get your kind of pirate gameplay and your lawful gameplay as well. So I think that's important.
I was going to say, it's also fairly easy resource-wise, because Pyro is simply a bunch of dead or dying worlds and a space station. We have dead or dying worlds, and we have a space station. We have space station models in the game right now. It's not that complicated to make it. And a lot of the stuff that they're doing on the roadmap is pointing towards Pyro being the next system, because of things like abandoned stations, which fits Pyro nicely, the revised stations they've done, and the revised insides of the stations, all 3 of which point to Ruin Station, which is the main landing point in Pyro. And then Delamar, or Nyx, is pretty easy, because its landing point is Delamar. We have Delamar,
which is currently residing in Stanton.
In Stanton.
So with the idea that it'll eventually go to its own system.
And there's no other major landing zones in Nyx, is there? It's just literally the asteroids and some planets and some moons, and that's it. So because there's no major landing zones, it's just outposts, and that's it, really, isn't it?
Maybe.
Well, they've spent all this time building the tools, so when it's a more empty system like Nyx, other than the landing zone, that'll be easily to generate, and it should only take them a couple of months. What they do, they got it down to 2 months to do. What was 2
weeks to do moons.
Something like that. It was crazy. So the rate that they're going to be able to pop them out is going to be a lot quicker now. You'll probably see a new system at least every 3 months, I'd imagine. When it gets rolling,
especially with what we're seeing right now, which is them prototyping all this stuff, makes it so that they can, because like Stanton is weird. Stanton is an anomaly in Star Citizen. Because even Terra has like 2 landing zones, but they're on the same planet. Like the only other system that is nearly as complicated as Stanton is Earth, or is the Sol system. You have Earth and Mars, and you have a bunch of other little moons and stuff like that. But other than that, like most systems are pretty much one landing zone, and that's it. Everything else is just wildness.
And even the planets and the moons are more desolate than we see on Stanton. But Stanton's got multiple landing zones and ecosystems, and it's also the other unique thing that makes Stanton stand out in terms of Star Citizen is the fact that it has been their test system. It's where everything gets chucked in. It's why we have Delamar in Stanton.
Why it was chosen too, because it had a variety of many different types of geological places, and it also had allowed them to get the different tech out for the city planet of ArcCorp. It had Hurston, so they could do a normal city landing zone, and it also had the gas tech of Crusader. So it covered pretty much all the bases.
So it had all the different architectural styles. It had all the different ecosystems. It had all the different planet systems.
I think in the future we're going to be, unfortunately, a little bit spoiled because we've had so many landing zones in this one. We're going to get to other ones and like, oh, where's the really cool, like it's just going to be really Spartan in comparison. So I hope we're not.
Oh, right. It's a system with like 5 stations and 1 landing zone. Yeah. And you're going to go like, okay.
This is going to feel empty compared. So
yeah. We're used to we kind of almost think of a system at the moment in Stanton as being the planet and its moons, and each of those have numerous landing zones that we've.
So there's our line of 5. That's everything we kind of know about that and why that's important. But the flip side of that is Lear. As we stated in the beginning, it is miles away from any of this, yet it has almost just as much, if not more, that's been shared with us. We have an entire CitizenCon video, the one with the sandworm in it and the crash javelin. That is all Lear 3, I believe. Lear 3? Have I got that right?
Yeah, Lear 3.
And that there is an entire system in there that is being worked on. But why? Why work on a system that is so far removed from everything else? And I think that's kind of what we want to explore today and see what we can find.
And even to throw more into that, like you've even got the new FPS scenario in
the new
Arena
the Good
Commander
Doctor map.
is based in Lear as well. So there's so much there, and so much has been built for it.
And they've done a few more lore posts, haven't they, around the Good Doctor as well? So that's opened a bit more information.
Yeah, the Good Doctor has a detailed lore post thanks to Sean Tracy. All of the maps in Star Marine have lore posts, and they're actually all connected to some famous event that has happened in the Star Citizen universe. In fact, Lear 2, the Good Doctor, is actually a station that was a site of an invasion. When we'll talk about that here when we talk about history, but it's a site of a major battle. So everything you see in Star Marine is a major battle point. Whereas Arena Commander is a little different, but like that's their theming. So there's some lore behind that as well.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not up on my lore when it comes to some of this stuff, but the Star Marine map, Good Doctor, is set prior to the PU. Is that correct? Like it's like 20 or 30 years before.
It's set a couple
years,
of years.
I heard.
Yeah, it's several. It's I have to look at the direct time when it happened, but it took place in 2812 or 2812 was when it set into.
So it's like 60-osh years.
160
160. Okay, my bad. Sorry, I didn't delay the count. Right.
Yeah.
So it's quite a while beforehand.
Yeah, but the nice thing about that is they've got the assets there. So even if the assets when they release it are totally different, they can say, well, it's been 160 years.
It's changed. It's
so,
changed.
So do you want to start with one of the planets and go through all of them? So do you want to start with Lear 1, or how do you want to? How would you like to do this?
I can go through the planets to kind of give people an idea of like what it's like.
Yep.
The Leir system is it was discovered in 2677, so we're talking Mezzer era, around the prime time of the Mezzer era. Actually under the Ilyana Mezzer, who is one of the bad Mezzer. When the Mezzer started going full dictator rather than just kind of dictator.
Just to put it in context, she assassinated her predecessor and took control, if I remember correctly.
I believe she's either the granddaughter or the great granddaughter of Ivar. So she's like the third or fourth Mezzer. I have to look at that details for that one, but she is Mezzer the third. Yeah, so she's the or Mezzer the fifth. I'm sorry. Mezzer the sixth. Mezzer the sixth. So she's the several greats. Sixth emperor. Great. Yeah. So she's a little further down the line, but yeah. So she's got a lot of like nasty history behind her. But anyways, during her reign is when we see the discovery of Lear, and then a company calling itself. I always want to say Hatfield and McCoys, but yeah. Hartfield and Harding.
I'm glad you
notes over
the
here.
same era.
Yeah. We're given the terraforming rights to the second planet. So
they didn't given them. They actually bought them at an astronomical
They bought them.
fee. They were auctioned the planet.
They were auctioned to them, but the thing about it is. The thing about it is it's also the Mezzers, so they likely paid off the Mezzers. There's lots of underhanded dealings because Ilyana is, I think, the same Mezzer who started opening up those prisons that were kind of infamous black sites and stuff like that, where people wouldn't go black bag and disappear. So there's a lot of stuff, but they paid a lot of money for it. So there's definitely something that they paid a lot of money for. The first planet in the system, Lear 1, is it's rocky. It's got a lot of minerals, but it's not a lot of mining just because of the nature of the system. Lear 2 is called Maya, M-Y-A, or that's Maya.
And
Maya,
that's the one with all the nice history and juicy bits.
That's the one that's complicated. So several years after this, Gaylor Mezzer, who was Mezzer the 9th, which is kind of a weird event, but Mezzer the 9th, sold the rights to an exorbitant amount of fees to Hatfield and Harding, and they gave the planet to terraform to a expert, Dr. Marcus Vale, who was an expert at terraforming, who not only terraformed the planet, but built his terraforming station on a rich mineral veins. And those were used to essentially pay off the cost of the terraformation.
And line his own pockets, and
of course. Well, he was also secretly building an army while using those minerals. And what no one really knew at the time was that the good doctor was also he had a very radical view of humanity, not the kindest view of humanity.
What type of army was he building?
He was building a cult army.
He was a cultist.
He was a cultist. So he believed that humanity was essentially had lost its way, that we had become obsessed with greed and
he was the shepherd.
Avarice. Exactly. He was the man to lead them into the future. And so
and give them some Kool-Aid or whatever,
and so by 2812, we have a rebellion that has taken place. He has converted the workers and his own followers into an army, a militia, and they overthrew the leaders of Maya and cut off all communications with the rest of the systems, or all of the human systems. Basically saying, go away, we don't want to talk with you anymore. We're going to purify ourselves in the light of Dr. Vale's, teachings and such. And that's where the good doctor comes in, because H&H didn't like losing their asset, so they invaded Lear with a mercenary army and lost, because H&H thought that the workers had been paid off, or they probably didn't like a cult leader running their world. So what then they found out is that they did kind of like them. So the workers actually rose up and fought off the mercenaries. So it's kind of a world that's civilized, settled. It was planned out as a community. It was well terraformed. From the looks of the good doctor, it's very similar to Hurston. It's like Hurston without the junk. Hurston without the Hurston family. Go ahead.
Sorry, and when they did find out, when Hatfield and Harding did find out that the planet was done, the planet was finished terraforming, and then they got the communique from Vale saying, this planet is now under my protection, go away. Mm-hmm. And that's basically when they went, oh crap, send in the boys. And
we just lost all of our assets. This man just pulled a fast one on us.
Yeah. They did try to keep it secret and do it privately. So they didn't want the UEE or the United Planet Federation to find out.
So since they have kind of taken control of the planet, have we heard anything from them since then?
There have been some reporters who've been able to come down there, because they used to kill intruders on sight. You show up, they just shoot you. Mm-hmm. And in fact, because the mercenary fleet showed up, they failed to win. Vale and his followers, who call themselves the Outsiders, captured the fleet of the mercenaries. So now they have state-of-the-art weaponry and ships to defend their planet from.
And they actually control the planet from outsiders who try to take it as well. So
they're very well trained, and they're very dangerous. They do shoot on sight, but they have let more people in, but they're not friendly. They don't buy anything from you. You can buy stuff from them. You don't talk to many people. It's very restricted. I think of it kind of like North Korea, whereas like North Korea has people who can tour. You can go on a trip to North Korea, to vacation to North Korea, and they'll take you on tours and show you things, but you can't really talk to the people other than who they tell you to. You can't go off to wandering tours. You have to listen to Dear Leader, and that's very similar to what we see on Lear II. It's on Maya. It's very much Dear Leader asks you to do this.
So it's not a place you would go to smuggle stuff, because you'd pay for it with your life.
I mean, it could be a place you go to smuggle
things. Very profitable.
But or you could also get your head chopped off, so it's one of those
high risk, high reward.
Places.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's certainly high risk, high reward. It certainly is a planet that lends itself for having a single landing zone where we'll be allowed to go, which I think also reduces that need for creation of assets. Whereas everything else is locked off and people won't talk to you. You might be able to land out in the wilderness, but certainly the more
You're going to have to avoid patrols because they're going to try to find you.
Yeah.
So is there anything more interesting there with Maya, or should we move on to the next planet?
I will say the other thing that's really interesting about Maya is that it's in terms of its design, it's, as I said, it's like Hurston without the Hurston family. It's like, think Lorville, but without the pollution.
Yep.
In fact, most of us have seen Maya because the famous images of the Defender and the Merchantman that we've seen, the big Merchantman landing on that big round, the one that everyone means because it's like the scale of Star Citizen and how big everything is. That's Maya. That's the landing zone at Maya. So you've seen it. It looks very similar to the big circles of ArcCorp with like a Hurston kind of like stuff around it. So that's important to point out, is that most of us have actually seen it, at least concepted, and kind of gives you an idea of what it's like. So it's going to be an interesting place because of what we've been used to with Hurston and ArcCorp. Now we're going to go from a place that's like Blade Runner and a place that's more like, yeah,
it's any more total.
It's more like the middle of nowhere,
Do you think it will be a bit religious? So we might see religious
yes,
stuff on the walls and statues and.
Well, it's important to note that the Outsiders are religious. They're called a cult, but they're not really religious. They're kind of like the Children of God cult is a good way of putting it. If anyone who's heard of the Children of God cult, they're highly controlling, and it's very
so more military-esque or more religious?
It's like a religious fundamentalism.
Okay.
It's less of a devotion to like a higher being, and more of a devotion to the leader, to the leader's ideals. Right. Less Catholicism, more Scientology in terms of its kind of religiousness.
Yeah. More.
Yeah, you got it.
Yep. Right. All right. Anything else on Maya, or should we move on to the next one?
We can move on to Lear 3.
All right. So, what's special about Lear 3 then?
Worm sign.
All right. So this is the planet from CitizenCon, basically, that we've all seen.
2016.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so just sand bandits, worms, fallen javelin. Anything else?
So the thing about it is that it is very diverse. It has deserts, tundras, mountains, oceans, oases, sandstones, and desert trees. So we're talking something like what we've seen in terms of savanna biome, but also on the polar caps, we have tundras.
Yep.
So instead of seeing what we see now, which is kind of like semi-monobiome randomly dispersed,
yep.
Lear 3 is like a planet you would normally see, just like Earth. You'll have different biomes depending on where you are.
Yep.
And it is filled with bandits and nomads. So it's a great place for people who are looking to maybe find some rare minerals.
And it's rich in minerals as well.
Mm-hmm.
It is actually quite a very mineral-rich planet. The problem is
the bandits.
Because of the sandworms, you can't actually set up long-term mining operations because the sandworms wreck everything.
They will wreck everything, which is the reason why in the demo you see them hanging out on that wreck, because the sandworms hasn't gotten to them yet, but they just keep moving around, which is the reason why they're called nomads, because if they settle down for long term, the sandworms just come in and mess everything up. The sandworms are actually called the Valakar.
Yeah, because that name rolls off the tongue. Volokar, but yeah, I'll try and remember that one. I was going to ask with the so is it kind of like Tatooine but without all the sand? That seems to be what you're trying to explain to me. Is it like so it's kind of like all these bandits, but they not the huts and all that, not all the racing and stuff, but just all this. So like the sand people of Tatooine, but they just keep moving around as nomads. And what do they normally do there? Do they mine as well? Is that what they do, or more hand mining?
they smuggle,
more.
they mine, and they collect resources, and then they have, obviously, because it's a smuggler haven, because a lot of people try to use the system, because the system is sort of patrolled, it's very weakly patrolled, it becomes a very easy place for people to come in and out. So maybe jumping smugglers or other people who try to, like, brave explorers trying to get in there and figure out what's going on. And there may also be something with the sandworms that we don't know about yet. They could be there because of the sandworms. There's nothing been explicitly stated. Yeah,
delicious. Tastes like chicken.
The Banu love them. You know?
Yeah, who knows? They could be Dunesk. It could be.
Yeah, their ships eat them for breakfast.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, usually their ships get eaten for breakfast.
Yeah. All right.
yeah.
Is there any more planets in the system, or is it just 3 planets, or is there more?
Well, it's 3 planets, but the unique thing is all 3 planets have some habitation. I think Lear 1 is the only one that doesn't have an atmosphere.
Yep.
But Lear 2 and Lear 3 both have atmospheres. And of all the other planets in the line of 5 that have been discussed and been looked at, it's the most populated system other than Stanton.
Terra.
Well,
okay. Terra and Stanton. Yeah.
Yeah, but even Terra really only has Terra as the inhabited world. Most of the other worlds are there, but they don't have a lot of terraformed. They're not really atmosphere. So
moons. Are there many moons?
Not that we know of.
That we know of. Okay. Interesting. All right, and why? I guess I'll put this question to both of you. Why do you think that this system is being worked on so much? Why is there so much draw to this system, and why is it so far? Why is it so important when it's so far away?
Go ahead, Algard.
Well, I think the very easy answer is Chris Roberts loves it. It appeals to his Star Wars link from when he was a kid. It is kind of Tatooine.
I wouldn't doubt if you had dual moon rise rather than dual sunrise kind of thing.
It almost feels like if it had a dual sun, it'd be Tatooine. That's what it feels like. The sand people, the nomads seem to be the sand people. But it seems to be that. But I also think there's an element where it's something they want to bring in the game sooner than later. So that's my at least quick grab. What about you, Paul?
My quick opinion is that it's fascinating because it feels kind of like a medium to low tech, where we have salvage systems like Pyro. We have Nyx, which is just one planetoid in an asteroid belt. It's an old mining station, and it's been converted into a living space by hippies. Then you have Pyro, which is just a rundown space station that's constantly on the hands of various different factions of bandits. So you've got 2 super low tech salvage almost systems. And you have Stanton, which is this high tech, high industrial system. You have Terra, which is this megalopolis of population, and Odin, which is it's mining, industrial, but there's no permanent. There's some permanent residence, but it's like weapons testing goes on in Odin as well as that. So Lear has this nice medium ground where it's not Stanton, but it's not Pyro. It's kind of in the middle. There is a well-settled, well-established settlement. There are planets which are mostly wild, but still have some value. There's a lot of resource and potential, but there's not a lot of there's a lot of danger going there. But it's not nearly as dangerous as a place like Pyro. So it kind of fits a nice middle ground between the super safe of Stanton and the Wild West of Pyro. And I think that's one of the reasons why they're doing it, is because they can slip it in there. And it becomes the place where people can go who are moderate. Your average player could go there and have fun times without feeling like they're going to get destroyed every 5 minutes, sort of thing.
I think the story with the cultists makes it a very different place as well. It's unlike anything we've heard before. It makes me think of like a remote monk outpost or something like that. But if it's an entire planet, then that could be different again. All right. Is there anything else you guys want to add?
I think it might be worth thinking that, in a sense, it's almost like there's a line of 5+1.
Yeah.
It's almost the way of thinking about it. You've got a line of 5 which make literal logical sense in terms of putting him in place. And then there's the +1 that's down the bottom, which if I had to hedge a bet, I'd say it's almost going to get the Delamar treatment. it'll get tacked into the line, even though it doesn't really belong there.
I almost think it might have some Squadron 42 connotations as well. It's the only thing that kind of makes sense the way they're working on a lot of stuff beforehand. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of like, if you think about it, if they're going to introduce, okay, sorry, cat. If you're going to introduce the different cultures into Squadron 42, this might be one that's near the Banu and the Vandal, so that might be the planet they use there, where on the other side of the galaxy, you've already got Stanton and Terra that are out near Cyan space, and you've already got some other Vandal stuff, so maybe they needed one to introduce some Banu issues in, so I don't know, but that's just me speculating.
Yeah. It definitely could. I feel like we're on the right path in the sense that it could be a Squadron 42 asset. If that was the case, my theory would be that it is a later Squadron 42 asset, or like episode 2 or episode 3, where they want to develop it now, because if they have it done, then they can put it in Star Citizen. But then they're like, hey, here's episode 2, and it takes all place in Lear, which would be an interesting story to develop. I can see the interesting stories, like you're a naval pilot having to deal with cultists. You know, how do you deal with this?
And it would almost be nice, as we've often speculated in the past, of having it almost as a background for the player character or another key character, where it's kind of that Luke Skywalker-y type background. So,
well, that would definitely
the old man's home place. Yeah.
Definitely fits into what you're saying about Chris Roberts living his childhood fantasies out. So yeah, that I could see, even potential characters coming from Lear. Even a character that is a former cultist would be interesting. Someone
maybe even the antagonist of Squadron 42. One of the antagonists could be a cultist, or like a disillusioned cultist trying to start his own place. There
you go.
In the universe.
Or turn over a new leaf.
Yeah, he's got on a pilgrimage to find a new planet to make his new cult 2.0. Yeah, so there's many ways it could go there. You guys got anything else you want to add? No.
Keep an eye on Lear. That's what I add.
Yeah,
keep an eye on Lear.
I definitely
see more of it.
Definitely interesting, and I've learned a lot today. I definitely would like to say that it's been great to have you guys fill me in, because I now feel like those systems, I am now more engaged in those systems, and before they were kind of just empty solar systems. Now I'm kind of intrigued to go there and visit and see what I can find. Yeah, so do you want to show yourself, Paul, and tell us about Astro Pub and where people can find you and stuff like that?
Hello, my name is Paul, Berserker01, Batman Shelley. I am the host and bartender at your space bar at the end of Twitch, the Astro Pub. Twitch.tv/the Astro Pub, Twitter.com/the Astro Pub, the Astro Pub pretty much everywhere, the Astro Pub. I stream Thursdays through Mondays. Mostly Star Citizen. I do other games as well. And I do everything from like role play to a series I call Zero to Hero, where I kind of try to do the new player experience in Star Citizen. I even do the Captain's Table, which is a podcast similar to this, where I discuss, bring people from all over the universe. Both of these guys have been on the Captain's Table at one point. Seer was on the last Captain's Table, for instance. So
I think probably a big one is also your historians, the Galactic Historian. So if you've liked YouTube, if you've liked this, check out the Galactic Historian, because that'll cover a lot of systems and a lot of ideas as well. So, and
we're going to cover Lear at some point soon too, especially with all the new assets and stuff like that. There's so much lore to cover. But yes, I do Galactic Historian, which is a lore series where I break down lore in space and science fiction games, mostly focusing on Star Citizen. So we've done everything from discussing the origins of the UEE, how the UEE Navy is structured, outlaws, the various weapons manufacturers and ships manufacturers in the verse. The last one we did was on Terra Mills, last little mini episode on Terra Mills, the origin, where it came from, which is the company behind Big Benny's and Pip Soda. And the next one we're doing about is a mystery. It's about the Hadesians, a nice ghost story in Star Citizen for Halloween. So we do lots of different things about Star Citizen. So we even run a new player's guide to lore, which helps you give you an understanding of what Stanton system is, who's in the Stanton system, what's going on, why are you there. A nice little rundown for the new players who want to know what's around them, because you don't really get a good idea quite yet. So check all that stuff out. Twitch.tv/the Astro Pub, YouTube.com/the Astro Pub, the Astro Pub everywhere.
Yeah, I think if anyone liked the lore stuff today, you definitely should go check out Paul's stuff because he clearly knows his shit. Right. He's been Paul Shelley from the Astro Pub. That's Mr. Algrid. I've been Execute. If you like this video, like this video. If you dislike this video, you know what to do there as well. Leave us a comment. Say hi to Paul in the comments for me. Anything that you'd like to ask Paul, feel free to shoot him a line here or one of his videos. He'd be more than happy to jump on. I have no doubt of that. And if I forgot anything, Discord. Join us on Discord.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Hit the bell button so you guys know exactly when it comes out.
It's like you've done this before, Paul. It's amazing. I should get you on more often. You can just do it for me.
I will say a little bit of lore because I like to do these things now.
Yeah,
a little bit of lore for you guys. So what you may not know is that the Info Runners is the Imperator's favorite show. That's right. Emperor Costigan every week watches the Info Runners.
There you go.
Secret major fan. There we go.
Didn't even know
The
it.
Galactic Historian gave it here.
That's right. It's true. I 100%. I had to say it. It's totally true because it's totally in lore. Look it up. I guarantee you. I'm totally not shilling for these guys with total lies.
All right.
So if you love the UEE, you have to love the Info Runners. That's all I'm saying.
I'm blushing. Right. All right. Thank you, everyone. And we'll catch you next time.
Take care.